Hey guys, check it out. You're watching Jonathan Clarke on YouTube. Oh no! Good evening, Descendants and Zombies universe. It is truly undeniable the profound impact that Descendants and Zombies as two separate franchises have had on our lives. And this is really something that I think we're never ever going to forget because we are a part of history. We have been a part of history for over 10 years. It is really hard to believe that it's been 10 years since Descendants and Zombies came into our lives and changed our lives, and we've become the best of friends because of Descendants and Zombies. For the powerful script, for the powerful music, for the characters that were represented by Dove Cameron, Kylie Cantrell, Ruby Rose Turner, who it breaks my heart she's no longer going to be a part of the Descendants franchise. When the announcement was first made about a year ago that Ruby was parting ways with the franchise, I'd be lying to you if I told you my heart wasn't broken, because I've been the biggest Ruby Rose Turner fan ever. For those of you who have been subscribed to this YouTube channel for what must feel like forever, you know me for being the biggest Ruby Rose Turner fan in the world, and how many times I've said how I don't know for the life of me how they can do Descendants 5 without Ruby. They've done it. But I always thought that Ruby was just such a genuinely kind person. That was the thing about me and Ruby, was I always believed that Ruby was just a genuinely kind person that was really hard to find in this lifetime. That's why I've always put out there that if you have one really good friend that you call every single night, that you tell that you love, that you always tell everything to, I think you have a lot to be thankful for. And I say this because I think that some of the most beautiful friendships of all time have happened and been derived from Descendants and Zombies and the passion that we all share in. Because, for instance, if not for Descendants and Zombies, I would have never met each and every one of you and had the honor of being in your presence every single night under these stars to talk about Descendants and Zombies. I love creating Descendants and Zombies videos. While I can't speak for the other critics out there who review Descendants and Zombies in such a critical fashion, I love talking about Descendants and Zombies for all the moments that we remember of being fans of Descendants and Zombies, moments that really brought us all together, and moments I believe that we will forever and always cherish. Like the very first time that Kylie Cantrell met Ruby Rose Turner. They've been friends ever since the age of 9 years old, and whoever thought they would share the stage on Descendants. And they really brought it to life in a way that I don't think any other cast would have ever been able to bring it to life ever before them. I know they go through about 500 people during the auditions, and it was forever until they narrowed it down to Kylie Cantrell and Ruby Rose Turner and Mila Baker, but I think this cast is definitely an unbelievable cast that has really changed our lives for the better. And I know that people miss the original cast. I know how you must feel about how Dove Cameron and Sophia Carson are no longer with us and how much they offer to the Descendants franchise, which I understand, and I respect you for feeling that way. But I think that as the times change, we too have to change with the times. Why? Because time is the most precious commodity. Even with how unbelievable and how much of an imprint Dove Cameron and Sophia Carson, and for sure Cameron Boyce, because I know we all miss him dearly, left on all of our hearts, I think that Kylie Cantrell and Ruby Rose Turner and Mila Baker did a fabulous job changing the Descendants franchise for the better and giving us a whole new perspective on what the Descendants franchise would go on to represent. A message of kindness, a message of hope, how friendship is the most powerful thing in the world. Because as I just said, if you have one really good friend that you helps you through your entire life, then you have a lot to be thankful for. I say this because I was a guy who went through his whole high school experience with probably 3 or 4 really good friends. And we stayed close together in a close-knit relationship for forever. And what I mean by a close-knit relationship, we would hang out, we would play video games all the time, we had a band. We spent a lot of time together until we went our separate ways. Some of us, got married, had families, but we still stay in touch. And that just goes to show just how some of the best friendships of all time happen when you least expect it. And that's why I believe that some of the most beautiful friendships of all time have happened on the set of Descendants, for the Rise of Red franchise when they all came together, and happened when everybody felt inspired by this new generation of Descendants and what it's represented. I honestly believe that years from now we'll be looking at the D23 Expo and waiting on the presentation of the award of some of the greatest of all time for the cast of Descendants. I say this because if people like Miley Cyrus can get the award for being the youngest Disney legend in history, I think that your favorite Descendants stars of all time are up for that award too, for how they inspired so many people of this new generation, how people love the Descendants franchise so much. I think they are more than deserving of that accolade. People will forever and always talk about Miley Cyrus and Ashley Tisdale and Zac Efron and Vanessa Hudgens for going down in history for being some of the greatest of all time, and definitely for sure some of the most revered. And even with how much respect I have for Zac Efron, Vanessa Hudgens, Ashley Tisdale, and Miley Cyrus, because everybody knows that I was the biggest Hannah Montana fan ever. If Hannah Montana had a concert somewhere live tonight, I'd probably be there, and I'd probably be up on the stage with Hannah Montana because I loved her so much because of the message of her music, how beautiful she was, how passionate she was about everything she did, until she made the announcement that she was leaving Disney, and my heart was broken for forever. Kind of like how Ruby made the announcement about a year ago that she was parting ways with the Descendants franchise, because for the life of me, I don't know how they're going to be doing Descendants without Ruby Rose Turner. They've done it. But again, I shudder to think what it's going to be like without Ruby because of how much of a beautiful personality Ruby had, with how, it's really hard to find really good people in this lifetime. I thought that for forever until I met everybody who was a fan of Descendants and Zombies, until one fateful night on Halloween, somebody knocked on my door and said to me, I know you host a show on YouTube. Would you care about talking about Descendants and Zombies? And I didn't know who she was dressed up as. She explained to me how much she loved Mal, the character from Descendants. She tried to explain the Descendants story to me the best way she knew how, up until that point, before she ran off into the night and told me to go watch Descendants and Zombies. And I want her to know that wherever she is out there in the world tonight, she still is an inspiration to me, and she's the reason behind this show, just as all of you make this show happen. Because I could be uploading videos about Descendants and Zombies and getting no likes and no subscribers, but I have all the support in the world that I could ever ask for as a host of a YouTube channel because of each and every one of you. And I've come to realize that the Descendants and Zombies fans in the world are some of the most incredibly kind people in the world, because they will never ever leave your side. They will help you against all the criticism that you receive for your videos on Descendants and Zombies and how you may feel about Dove Cameron, Kylie Cantrell, Ruby Rose Turner, and they will never ever leave your side. That is the most unbelievable thing about Descendants and Zombies, and I quickly realized that good people in this world, kind people, really do exist. Because I saw the kindness in every Descendants fan who ever subscribed to this YouTube channel. Some of the very first subscribers I've ever put up on this YouTube channel are still here. And I have so many incredible Descendants and Zombies fans yet to meet, which is such an honor for me. There are 600,000 fans of Descendants and Zombies on YouTube, always watching your favorite music videos, watching your favorite moments and highlights from the Descendants franchise, the Worlds Collide Tour. And I look forward to the future. And I look forward to being your voice of Descendants and Zombies for the foreseeable future. Because you think back to the profound impact that Twilight and the Vampire Diaries and True Blood had on our hearts. I mean, we all fell in love with Stefan Salvatore, Ian Salvatore, Damon Salvatore, and how much of an impact they had on all of our lives. And now Descendants of Zombies, in a generation that is no longer represented by vampires and werewolves, is captivating millions of people. I say this because I was the biggest fan of the Vampire Diaries. If there was a fan of the Vampire Diaries, I was the biggest fan of the Vampire Diaries. If there was a fan of Twilight and someone who read all the books, it was this guy. And I found a greater appreciation in vampire TV shows because of the Salvatore brothers and their conflict over Elena. And I found a greater appreciation for Edward Cullen and Jacob in the Twilight Saga. I remember how popular those series were. And I thought about how when Descendants of Zombies first premiered years ago, how they would have been up against competition like Twilight and the Vampire Diaries. I think they would have definitely had their work cut out for them. But I think this is a franchise that has represented so much in a generation where vampires and werewolves have long surpassed us. But I think they would definitely be able to hold their own with how popular they are. But I really like how Disney's strategy for releasing Descendants and Zombies came after the success of the Vampire Diaries and Twilight happened, because we all remember Twilight for being so revered. I remember how crazy everybody was about Twilight. I remember the Breaking Dawn premiere more especially in 2013. Millions of people came out worldwide to check this one out, and it went down in history for being one of the most revered. Let me just say this. Every single premiere of Descendants and Zombies is in a category of its own, because Descendants and Zombies has attracted millions of people, just like Twilight and the Vampire Diaries did years ago. So I really don't think there's any comparison, although Descendants and Zombies may have had their work cut out for them, given the popularity of Twilight and the Vampire Diaries years ago. I really don't think there's any comparison that can be made when it comes to Descendants and Zombies' profound success to profound success of vampire franchises of years gone past. I know that we're kind of moving out of the vampire werewolf realm, and we're coming into a whole new generation that's represented by sci-fi when it comes to Disney. But I think it was really perfect how Disney introduced us to the Zombies franchise around the same time they introduced us to the multiverse stuff happening with Marvel. And I know how everybody felt about the multiverse stuff with Marvel, and how everybody felt about the passing of Stan Lee and Disney's direction with Marvel. But I think they've really done a fabulous job introducing us to the multiverse stuff with everything happening with the Fantastic Four. I was there for their premiere, the upcoming Spider-Man movie next year. there's a lot happening for Disney, and Descendants of Zombies is something to really become marveled in, and it's something that I'm really excited about, especially with what we're looking at now for the Zombies franchise in the future, with mermaids and pirates seeing their introduction into the franchise, because we haven't seen a Pirates of the Caribbean movie for forever. I was a big fan of the Pirates of the Caribbean. I was there for the premiere of the Pirates of the Caribbean years ago. I was really excited about it. If there was one premiere that I could go back in time and relive all over again, it would be the premiere of the Pirates of the Caribbean. So be it that we haven't seen anything done with Disney with the exception of Jake and the Neverland Pirates for Disney Junior, this is something to be really excited about, because it's going to be a live action adaptation of Pirates, obviously, and with Captain Hook's history with Peter Pan and how much mischief they used to get caught up within. This really creates something spectacular that we've never seen happen before for the Descendants franchise. We've seen Harry Hook, and of course how Harry Hook felt about Mal in that franchise, and how they hit it off after the producers realized that there was obviously some chemistry happening there between Mal and Harry Hook, and there wasn't much of a story, of course, for Descendants because of their real-life relationship and stuff. So I think that with how everybody remembers how much of an impact Pirates have had previously on the Descendants franchise, they're really excited about the future for the Zombies franchise, because we've never seen anything like this happen before, because most of the focus in the Zombies franchise has been on Zed and Addison's relationship, and Addison trying to find her place in the world as a werewolf at one point, an alien at another point. I really appreciate how these characters have really had, a lot of inspirational moments drawn from, vampire TV shows of the past, like The Vampire Diaries and True Blood. And Freya Skye drew inspiration for her character off of those series. For one, I would love to have sat down with Freya Skye and watched the entire Vampire Diaries series, because I don't think she realizes how popular The Vampire Diaries was years ago, because of course The Vampire Diaries premiered in 2010. She was 1 year old when The Vampire Diaries premiered, and I remember the night of its premiere, and I remember being so captivated by it. And I would love to sit down with Freya Skye and go in depth about The Vampire Diaries, because I remember how revered moments were for The Vampire Diaries, from the very first time that Stefan and Elena laid eyes on each other in that graveyard, to when Stefan eventually fell in love with Caroline, who I thought was a beautiful character portrayed by Candice Acula. And I remember all the hype that was around them, having kids and getting married. That was a beautiful series. And I say this because while people, will always try to steer us in the direction of Descendants and Zombies reaching their dramatic conclusions, I think they tend to forget about the history of vampires and the lore of vampires, because there is so much that can be done with a story that involves the history of vampires. There's a cure for vampirism that is eventually discovered. That happened in the Vampire Diaries. Vampires have such a history that you can create so many storylines off of just in vampires alone. And then the history of pirates. I live on an island where there are hundreds of years of stories that date back hundreds of years about pirates and their history. There's actually a graveyard 10 minutes away from where I live where one of the most legendary pirates of all time are buried that was from this island that dates back hundreds of years. I wish there was some way that I could film my show in there, but due to community restrictions, I obviously can't. But I really do think that this island reminds me of so many legendary stories that a lot of people tend to forget about everything having to do with mermaids and pirates, which is why if you're looking for a guy on YouTube who really believes in the future of the franchises Descendants and Zombies, then you should look no further than this YouTube channel, and perhaps you should take a chance on subscribing here, because I really do believe that some of the most promising futures will come in the form of Freya Skye and Kylie Cantrell, because Kylie Cantrell is one celebrity that will never go away. Kylie Cantrell loves keeping us in the informative loop about everything happening with her. Her vlogs are absolutely outstanding. Just the other day I saw Kylie Cantrell post her latest vlog about everything about Descendants, Zombies, Worlds Collide tour rehearsals, to a day at the gym where she was getting in shape with Malia Baker. She's kind of become Malia Baker's gym buddy. So it just goes to show how close they are, and how long a friendship can actually last. It can really stand the test of time which is something I give these stars a profound amount of credit for actually promoting and really putting out there. Because while people like Miley Cyrus and Emily Osment of generations past have forever closed the door on Hannah Montana reunions and them ever being the best of friends, because they weren't, obviously, because they just couldn't get along. Jeanette McCurdy and Ariana Grande from Nickelodeon fame is another example I can throw your way. I see everybody throwing up videos of Sam and Cat all the time. As much as I love that show, it broke my heart how Ariana Grande and Jeanette McCurdy just could never see eye to eye and reach mutual understandings. I say this because I think that friendships like Kylie Cantrell, Malia Baker, Kylie Cantrell, Ruby Rose Turner, and the three of them collectively is something that we really need to treasure, because this is a part of history, and we are all a part of history because of these stars, and I'm just enjoying being a part of it. I love seeing them have fun. It breaks my heart when they cry about criticism that they're being thrown the way of, because they don't deserve to, go home on a tour bus and YouTube themselves about someone's critical review of Descendants of Zombies. Here's the latest update about Descendants of Zombies, posted tonight on YouTube by yours truly. And here's how I honestly felt about it. Just the other night I read a review of the Worlds Collide Tour of somebody's honest opinion about it, and it was brutal. I have to be honest with each and every one of you. I read down through the 5-paragraph review, and it was brutal. Everything they could possibly hate about the Worlds Collide Tour was included in there. Everything from the merchandise quality to how the Q&A had to have questions submitted hours before it happened. I mean, what did you expect? Them to have to come out and answer 500 questions all at once, like rapid fire? Take it from a journalist. It is incredibly difficult to answer 500 questions at random. It's better to prepare your content, especially for a Q&A. Now, I myself have never loved to prepare anything for a video because I believe in speaking with an open heart and an open mind. But when you have these stars breaking into the industry and still having to figure out their place in the world, falling asleep on tour buses every night following performances like Freya Sky, which is absolutely adorable because it just goes to show how much she loves the industry she's a part of and how she wants to be a part of it forever and always, giving it 110%, which I show a lot of respect to her for, because a lot of people wouldn't have that same admiration for the industry like she does, because we've seen Dove Cameron crack under pressure. We all know what happened to Demi Lovato years ago. So I think that with the heart that Freya Sky possesses, she deserves anything but criticism. And if I have to, I will stand in front of 15 million critics every single night on this channel and take bullets for Freya Sky. I will forever and always take bullets for Kylie Cantrell, because when you see them falling asleep on a tour bus because they're doubting their performance level and the criteria of their performance and wondering constantly if they're letting people down, I think they're more of an inspiration than anything. And I'll go on record for saying that I think that Kylie Cantrell and Freya Sky are the next Destiny Child singers, because in all honesty, when you see the success of a band like Destiny's Child that nobody ever thought was going to amount to anything years ago, Kelly Rowland and it was just amazing, and Beyonce, seeing them explode in the way that they did. And I really think that when you compare Ariana Grande's rise to superstardom and the rise of a Taylor Swift, I think that Freya Sky can easily find herself in that same conversation. And I'll be honored to start that conversation about Freya Sky if I have to. Because years ago, when people thought Taylor Swift was never going to amount to anything, boy, did she ever prove her critics wrong. Taylor Swift is now worth almost $10 billion. That's incredible. That's incredible. And I think that nobody ever thought that was going to happen for Taylor. I mean, Taylor's first record came out, how old was she? 17 when her first record dropped? And every record after that, Taylor Swift, showed us she was going to be something special. She's on the Eras Tour. She was amazing. And every opportunity she's taken full advantage of. And I think that Freya Sky is going to do the exact same thing. It's only a matter of when, where, and how it happens for Freya Sky. And I'll have more to say on this tomorrow morning about Freya Sky's future, because I think it's filled with promise. I think it's filled with guarantees that will be followed through with. Everybody seems to be fully supportive of Freya Sky. And I just want to be one of those guys that, offers her incentive and the support she really deserves. Because when you see these Descendants and Zombie stars subjected to so much criticism for the decisions and the choices they make throughout the course of their life, the reality of it is, how do you know everything at 15 years old? When I was 15 years old, all I was doing with my time was playing PlayStation 2 and playing Metal Gear Solid 2 and Crash Bandicoot and throwing in a scattered game of Spyro the Dragon here and there, because Spyro the Dragon was actually a really hard game to beat. When I was 15 years old, I was doing nothing. And Freya Sky is out performing in front of thousands of people every single night. And that's really amazing. I was hosting a podcast actually in my parents' basement when I was 15 years old because I had no money. I was very poorly financing a radio program that wasn't being heard by enough people. And it wasn't until years later on YouTube that my voice finally was heard, and I was forever and always cherished by the Descendants of Zombies niche, because they've been forever incredibly supportive of my videos, and I can never seem to thank you guys enough. Because while others choose to criticize the franchise, I perceive these franchises in a very different way. I will forever make the comparison of Descendants of Zombies being compared to Twilight and the Vampire Diaries because I love those series so much. And given the lore and the history of vampire TV series of the past, going back as far as Buffy the Vampire Slayer and her relationship with Angel, by season 2 my heart was broken. So I think, because that was of course when Angel and Buffy parted ways for the first time. And if you're wiping a tear out of your eye, I can't honestly say I blame you, because I'm probably bringing back a lot of fond memories for people who are probably a bit older, who remember being there for those memorable moments from TV shows such as Buffy and The Vampire Diaries. The thing is, we have so many memories yet to create and yet to witness for both the Descendants of Zombies franchises, and I'm just incredibly excited and ever so honored to be here to be your voice of Descendants of Zombies. You know, don't let the critics break your heart, because I think for every heartbreak out there, there's a chance for hope. And what I mean by a chance for hope is there's ever some more of a chance of hope for Zombies 5 happening perhaps sooner than what people are predicting. I know the release window right now is currently suggesting it won't happen until 2028. I shudder to think what will happen for people if we have to wait until 2028. Everybody is going to go crazy, demanding Descendants of Zombies to happen a lot faster than what it is. And trust me, I'm going as fast as I can with my videos to put it out there that we need a release window earlier than 2028. But even though if it isn't until 2028 this happens, it will give me a chance to meet even more incredible Descendants of Zombies fans, which I'm incredibly excited to meet, and discuss the future of the franchises. Like what will happen with Victor and Nova now. The cool thing about Victor and Nova's story is it hasn't even begun. We were just introduced to Victor and Nova. So Zombies 4, Dawn of the Vampires was just an introduction to these characters. You know, what's it about Nova that everybody loves? We're going to find out. What is it about Victor that stands out amongst every other guy on Disney Channel? Shall we find out? The thing is, if you're a fan of Descendants of Zombies, I see nothing wrong with that. And I fully support you in your journey throughout the lineage and the legacy of Descendants of Zombies. Because I, too, am just as big of a fan and supporter of Descendants of Zombies. I've never seen anything wrong with being a fan of Descendants of Zombies. All I've ever had an issue with are all the critics about Descendants of Zombies saying they need to stop making Descendants of Zombies movies. You will never hear me say this on this YouTube channel, but they need to stop making Descendants of Zombies movies. If anything, they need to make more, because we were left with so many unanswered questions by the end of Zombies 4, Dawn of the Vampires. We don't know what was inside of that vortex. What could be inside of this thing? I've heard predictions going as far as mermaids, pirates, witches, sirens. Given the lore of supernatural characters out there that have yet to see their introduction into the Zombies franchise, I, for one, am incredibly excited about it, and I have a lot of reasons to be excited about it, because I had a lot of unanswered questions about the future of Zed and Addison and whether or not they'll return, even though they're going to sit behind the camera. I mean, with how much the franchises have been to Mila Manheim and Meg Donnelly for forever, I mean, you just can't. One thing I've learned about the entertainment industry after covering it for X number of years is you just can't walk away from something for doing it for, I don't know, a decade and just to expect you to forget about it. You will return in some capacity, regardless if it's a writer or producer and you're just sitting behind the camera. I mean, you take Goosebumps, for instance. R.L. Stine used to make cameos all the time for the original kids' TV series on Fox Kids years ago, and that was all the way back, dating back to 1995. So because Goosebumps aired from 1995 to 1998, and it meant so much to R.L. Stine, being a writer of a book that sold over 500 million copies, he still would make appearances in the Goosebumps movies years later in 2014, I think it was, 2014, 2015. So no matter how hard you try to walk away from a franchise that's meant so much to you or a career, you always find your way coming back home. And I don't think we should ever close the door on anybody, as much as it's been suggested that Mal will never reprise her role, Sophia Carson will never reprise her role. I mean, we just saw Sophia Carson commemorating the 10th anniversary of Descendants, like so many stars of the past did, with the exception of Dove Cameron, who just allowed, she's going to be watching Descendants from the sidelines, although it remains to be seen. I don't think we should ever close the book on anything and everything happening for Descendants of Zombies. And I will forever and always be here for you guys to support that and support your predictions and your theories on the direction for Descendants and Zombies, because I too was a big fan of vampire TV shows. I too was a big fan of folk literature and theater arts. If there was one guy in the theater arts class every evening, if there was one guy there, it was me. Even though I fell down through the stage one night during a production of Phantom the Opera, which is something I try to forget, but everybody reminds me of it. Oh, God. Guys, thank you so much for all the love and support you've shown this YouTube channel. I honestly don't know where I would be this evening under these stars doing anything else in my lifetime, because I can't imagine doing it without you guys, because you guys have been the most incredibly supportive niche and the most incredibly supportive fans that any podcast host on YouTube, on their YouTube channel, could ever ask for. I just wish more people perceived it the same way that I did, because this truly is one of the greatest honors of my life forever and always. Guys, be kind to one another and just trust in this. Everybody has a light. I know this sounds like Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, but I love to say this line. Everybody has a light. No matter how long it takes you to find it, trust me, you will find your light. Guys, thank you so much for all the love you've shown this YouTube channel. I will return tomorrow morning with yet another video, but until then, keep kindness in your heart as I will keep you in mind. Tomorrow morning between 8:35 and 9:05 a.m. we will talk more about the future of your favorite Descendants and Zombie stars and the franchises. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. I'm your host, Jonathan Clarke, your voice of Descendants and Zombies. So honored to be in your guys' presence. Thank you so much.